listening to
What the Tech?
Welcome to the What the Tech podcast, where we talk about business and office technology and put our 20 years of expertise to discussing trends and issues impacting the workplace.
And welcome back to What the Tech. I'm Orlando.
And I'm Dave Kelly.
And we are your co-hosts for What the Tech, where we speak with technology and industry experts to gain their insights in today's evolving business world. And we've got a good one today for our folks listening in as well as watching.
We do, but hey, listen, before we introduce our guests, a couple of shout outs. Hey,
Yeah.
A big shout out to Dan Macarone of Charming Robot, charmingrobot.com. Dan's also the co-author of the Barstool MBA, available on Audible. Great book. What's their tagline? Why running a bar is better than running to business school. It's a great listen. Listen, if you're into business, you want to kind of take it a little lighthearted, you got to check out this book. There's a lot of great nuggets in there. And who do you want to give a shout out to, Rolando?
I'm going to tell you in a second, but he was a great guest last week with us, and he invited me to take a sip at his bar in New York City. And actually, he's got a couple of restaurants, so I'm going to be there. We'll take some sips. And if you happen to be in NYC or going down there and have some free time, check out his restaurants. You can go online and just Google him, and you'll find some of his restaurants. But yeah, Dave, I want to give a shout out to Justin Welsh. He is a solopreneur coach guru. Like, he drops serious nuggets on LinkedIn. If you're trying to get your side hustle game on, check him out on LinkedIn. He is just blowing up, not only blowing up, but Dave, he offers a lot of really good insights. So if you're a one-man show or a one-woman show trying to get that side hustle on, he can give you some guidance on how to get that going.
Excellent. Yeah, we'll need to check him out. Hey, Rolando, I got to hold you back before you introduce our guest. Who's our sponsor today? Do a read from our sponsor.
Hey, here we go with today's sponsor. Today's show is sponsored by Global Tech Worldwide. There are professionals, Dave, that are going to be listening to this podcast today who find hardware sourcing and recommendations to their clients a hassle. So if that's you, listen up to this. Don't let hardware get in the way of keeping you going to the end game. Scoring that touchdown with your customer, getting that project off the ground. The goalposts always tend to move when you're talking about hardware. It gets in the way. Stop doing that. Let Global Tech, with its 20 years of expertise in the office hardware and its white glove service, help you and your customers be ready on the intended launch date so that you can avoid hidden surprises. Charinna, we've worked with some of your partners in the past when it comes to hardware, giving them that white glove treatment so that, they don't fumble the ball, right? When it comes to launching on the cloud or getting their launch dates ready. And I think we've had some good success with that, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. It's that personal touch that Global Tech offers that really sets you apart in this industry. I don't know many people that would get on the phone with a customer and say, oh, your headset's not working. Let me actually walk you through this step by step.
Right.
In fact, I don't know anybody, and I've been doing this 20 years.
And you know what? You are a pro and a veteran yourself. You know that a lot of the times the folks you're working with, the Data Canopy partners of yours, what they hear is just go on Amazon and get whatever headset you see, and it'll do the job. They're all the same. But Dave, didn't you tell me something the other day about something, an exact story like that with a client you're working on?
Yeah, so Charinna, we had a partner contact us really like panicking. And he tells me, he said, listen, we're in the middle of a rollout and the headsets that were recommended by another vendor weren't working with their Mitel phones. And he said to me, Dave, I really need your help. It's like it's slowing everyone down. The client's upset. The salespeople are upset, and what it had to do with some provisioning of the phone with the headset. And long story short, I was able to quickly get a solution in their hands for testing. They plugged it in. We got the thing working. They consulted with some other folks. Everyone gave it a thumbs up. This is one of the largest state universities in the country. We secured an order, which was great, of course, for us. But more importantly, we were able to get the client where they needed to be. They needed that working hardware piece. And the partner was psyched because now it just removed that roadblock and they were able to kind of keep moving forward, opening up the licenses, get those users live. And at the end of the day, everyone was happy.
Love it. Those are the kind of stories. We like happy endings around here. I'm sure you do too, Charinna.
We love to go from zero to hero, don't we, guys?
I sure do.
Part of why we do this every day.
Absolutely. And that's why, well, let me tell you about Charinna. You know what? I hope your husband doesn't mind me throwing out words like love. I love this woman. She's a great woman. So pardon me if I throw those words, but let me tell you about Charinna. I love this woman because she's awesome, just all around awesome girl. But let me just tell you a little about her professionally. She's the EVP for Data Canopy and is a champion builder of channel sales teams. That's what she's known for. With a demonstrated history of working in the telecom industry. She's a pro. She's a veteran of 20 years, just like she said. She is unrivaled when it comes to working with channel partners and the cloud, voice over IP, as well as co-locations. Those are all under her roof. She could probably talk about those in her sleep. She's by far one of the most traveled EVPs I know of. Every time I looked at LinkedIn or Instagram, she's working out, she's at a bar mitzvah, she's at a birthday, she's at dinner with clients, and she's working with partners. Like, I get exhausted just watching her LinkedIn post. I get a workout, traveling all over the place. So if you're looking for somebody like that to help you out with cloud matters, that is your gal in your corner. And I want to welcome back to my podcast, making her second trip to What the Tech, Charinna Kushnir.
Thank you,
Charinna.
Rolando. Thank you, Dave.
Welcome,
it's always
welcome.
a pleasure to be with the two of you.
Awesome. Always a pleasure, Charinna. We love spending time with you.
Yeah, we have a new hashtag over here at Data Canopy. Where in the world is Charinna Kushnir? That seems to be the story of my life. I think I've been in 7 cities in the last 30 days.
Oh my.
I think the worst part about it is waking up and trying to remember which city you're actually in. And I think that's the hardship part of it.
Yeah.
But that's okay. We'll take that over sitting in quarantine, right, guys?
Absolutely. Well, look
100%.
at this. Look at this, Charinna. Let me share something with you. Like, I'm on LinkedIn right now, just showing it to you. I know the folks that are listening in won't be able to see this, but if you go to Charinna's LinkedIn,
That's Nashville.
yeah, look at this. Look at this, Dave. Look.
I was still
to
there.
Nick.
Yeah, it's a lot of hustling
Look
around
at that.
for sure.
Like I'm enjoying vicariously
That's
through her
easy.
all her adventures on LinkedIn and her client dinners, her Ukrainian dinners. What else we got? You were at Channel Connect in Nashville. Got a bunch of posts there. We got a bunch of swag that you're always promoting. You know, all kinds of stuff.
Little Rip Van Winkle there. I saw that.
That was actually one of our marketing ideas from last winter to help perpetuate the brand. Is we actually had 100 little elf on the shelves, and one of my actual partners sewed 100 little Data Canopy T-shirts for those elves. Believe it or not.
Ooh. Oof.
Talk about a feat to get that done. But yeah, that was a great holiday contest we ran last year.
Oh my god, you guys! I mean, when I look up and you say, you know, we got some swag, it's never the same, right? Between you and your wonderful gals that are at Data Canopy, y'all come up with some really good marketing stuff. You know, it's never a boring moment over there. Speaking of boring, Charinna, we were just talking before we went here and hit record about some of the biggest mistakes that you're seeing. You know, started with COVID, still going on right now with the customers that you were telling us about. You know, what are you seeing? Are people still making the same mistakes now that the fog is starting to clear?
So it's interesting. I would more put it in the category, guys, of buyer's remorse, right? Like, you know, the old adage, right? Nobody got fired for buying IBM, right? So it's the same thing with AWS and Azure. When you start talking about cloud technology, and whether you're talking about the IT director, the CTO, the CFO, everybody knows who AWS and Azure are, right? So in haste, a lot of companies during COVID, when they suddenly had to send their entire workforce home and were like, how are we going to access our servers, moved their entire network to the cloud. But what a lot of people didn't understand is it's cheap to put it in. it's expensive to pull it out.
Right.
That is the downfall of the public cloud. And what I have seen over the last 2 years is that there's a little bit of angst around private cloud because not everybody's sure about who's maintaining it, and is my private cloud in my basement and gerbils could chew through the wires, right? And then all my data is gone. Versus AWS and Azure, everybody knows that's not going to happen, right? So, when you get a customer like the one I had yesterday who has a $9,000 a month Azure bill, and when they went and looked at what it should have cost them, they saw a $2,000 price tag because nobody talks about egress fees. Nobody talks about how much it costs to pull it out of the cloud. They talk about how much it costs to put it in.
Yes, and we had on Rachel a while back ago, and she was saying that that's really still, I mean, we had her months ago. She's still, so many folks, when they're thinking of going to the cloud, they get enamored by other things and other pieces of the cloud, but they don't think about those egress fees. They can add up really quickly. And why is that, Charinna? Why do these egress fees? Is it just everybody's nickel and diming you with egress fees and everybody's, kind of paying as you go in a different manner, or why is that?
Yeah, I mean, everybody, I think that most companies don't necessarily have a grasp on how much data they're pulling out on a daily basis, right? You've got a server sitting in your office. You've had it for 10 years. It never dawns on you how much data is on there, right? You probably bought a server 10 years ago that was way larger than what you actually needed, right? So when you go and you subscribe to a cloud environment, most customers don't have a concept of how much they're really using. And I think that that's where we really shine as an organization at Data Canopy, is being able to analyze that information and come back to a customer and say, hey, Mr. Customer, this is what you're actually using. So let's start there. Let's not oversubscribe services that we don't need. Now, what I will say about public cloud is certain applications and workloads belong there, right? So we can't just say every customer every time belongs in a private cloud, right? And that's where the cost savings lie, because there's no egress fees, right? What we like to do is we like to understand every application a customer has, and then say, okay, certain workloads belong here and certain workloads belong there. And if we need to do a multi-tenant environment, if we need to do a hybrid environment, we can certainly deploy that. But not everything belongs in the public cloud. But you have to be an expert to understand that.
No doubt, Charinna. Let me do this. Boy, you are just dropping knowledge today. Dave, did you want to jump in on and say something?
Well, I wanted to ask, Charinna, everything comes at a cost, and budgets, I'm seeing budgets are kind of constrained for a lot of clients. Are you seeing the same thing? How can we show these additional fees that people are paying today, and kind of bring them in and offer some options for them? I'm assuming, like a lot of things, those egress fees aren't right on the front page. They kind of learn about it a little bit later. So how do you uncover that for a client?
So I'm going to ask you a question back, right? Because I hate to answer a question with a question, Dave, but I'll throw a question back at you. So it'll be a twofold answer here. When a customer comes to you and says, I want to buy hardware, what is the ROI? What is your answer in general? How long is that piece of hardware going to last?
Well, I guess we look at the warranty period, where it wouldn't cost anything other than that upfront cost. So if I have a $200, I'll call it a $200 headset, I know that it has a 2-year warranty. The cost of ownership for those 2 years is $100 annually, just to keep it simple.
So we keep those numbers round. So we are going to assume, right, that the shelf life of that product is approximately the warranty period, correct? And that after 2 years, we're going to be buying hardware again. So it's the same thing in our world. So when we start talking about budgets, right, most customers think that the life of hardware is 7 to 10 years. Whoa. But in the reality, you and I as technologists, we know that that's not the case
not
anymore.
Even.
Because not even close anymore, because everything changes so quickly.
That's right.
Right.
Shelf life on a server is probably 3 to 4 years. So when we start talking about budgets and where are the ROIs in moving a customer to the cloud versus having an on-prem server, because that's a conversation that we still have, right? We have it less and less now because most customers have accepted, especially with COVID and with many of them still continuing to move their workforces home permanently and getting rid of the cost of commercial real estate, right?
Yep.
And they are looking at it and they're saying, okay, if I'm refreshing this hardware every 3 years, it makes sense with all the added benefits I get of a cloud migration for me to do it. And what are those benefits? Redundancy, security, all the things that an on-prem server doesn't necessarily offer them.
And you're talking about when you're saying redundancy and on-prem, are you still finding that the majority of businesses that need to be in the cloud are still on-prem?
It's probably a 50-50 split, truthfully. I'll give you a great example. I have a partner who's a fairly large managed services provider. I call him a pioneer, right? Because he moved his customers to the cloud, all of them, 4 years ago. No on-prem servers for any customer that he has. And when I asked him, why did you do that, right? Because that was early stages of cloud for a lot of MSPs who were still wanting to sell hardware.
Right. Sure.
He gave me a really good and very simple answer. He said, if I put a server out on that customer's prem, right, and that server goes bad, and the customer calls me, he's saying, hey, Dave, that server went bad. You have to replace it. And he says, well, that's the manufacturer. And the customer says, I don't care. You put it there.
Right.
Right? It's the same thing like for you guys. You sell somebody a headset, they don't care if it's Plantronics' problem. You sold it.
No doubt, no doubt. So getting into the cloud takes so much of the burden out from the folks that are integrating the technology, the hassle, like we were saying earlier, the hassle of being stuck with hardware. Nobody wants to deal with the support. Nobody wants to deal with the problem. I mean, even during COVID, I've heard so many stories of servers going down, melting down, overheating. One server causes a cascade effect, and who's going to take care of that? And a lot of folks don't want to deal with it. You deal with it, right?
Right. Hey, Charinna, I have a question for you for the pioneer that you're speaking of right now. Moving people moving his clients to the cloud, he's now able to free up any of that support stuff. Those just some of those frustrations he's been able to get off the table. Has he been able to free up time so that he can focus on growing his business? I mean, that must have been such a relief for them.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the so when we start talking about budgets, right, guys, he was able to eliminate some resources because the guys who roll the trucks, they're no longer necessary. He didn't need as many people, as many hands, because there was no hardware that he needed to go into the field to service anymore. So he streamlined his customers. He was able to streamline his workforce, which was huge for him.
Sure.
And he now doesn't worry about those failures. So yes, he's very focused on sales. His primary focus is actually medical. And he very much focuses on medical customers and medical facilities, surgery centers who have HIPAA compliancy that they have to be concerned with, right? And that's something that we hear a lot about is HIPAA with the medical industry. So now he doesn't have to worry about that either. So he's checked off a lot of boxes.
So it sounds like that going to the cloud, Charinna, is still a good business move because, quite frankly, you can be more efficient. You can have redundancy, so you have a more resilient system. But at the same time, be even more profitable because if you're able to cut labor costs, you're able to cut other soft costs associated with servicing equipment, with having things on-prem, worrying about actually equipment failure. That's essentially profits you could put back in the business instead of just like, because IT is always trying to justify their existence in any organization. And if they're able to actually say, hey, we're actually going to make more money by going to the cloud, then it's still a good play, no?
Very much so. And not only I think one of the big things with IT departments, though, that I see on a day-to-day basis is that they're stretched. Their resources are stretched extremely thin, right? So they're administering desktops. They're doing disaster recovery type of engagements. They're administering software that they never seem to have enough hands on deck to do the amount of work that they need to do. This takes something off of their plate so that they have more time to do day-to-day tasks.
I love it. I love it.
So we'll switch gears a little bit from cloud and into disaster recovery, because DR is probably one of the biggest topics that we talk about. Data Canopy is not a cybersecurity company. We have partners for that. But one of the statistics that we talk to our partners about a lot, to our customers, is how much will a disaster cost you per day?
Tell me. I'd love to know what the heck goes on when stuff goes down. What is it costing me? Because that's actually going to be probably more expensive. So tell me.
So an average size customer that's about 100 employees, if it takes them more than 24 hours to recover their data after a breach or a loss, will cost them $12,000 a day in lost revenue.
What? Get the front door shut down.
$12,000 a day.
What?
Well, I guess that's not. I guess I would think that that's a good number. You're talking about 100 people that shut down completely. The sales organization is down. They're not able to take orders. They're not able to run their manufacturing. What type of a business is losing $12,000 a day because of that? I guess.
It could be, it literally could be anything. It could be trucking and logistics. It could be a law firm. David, it could literally be almost anything. And that's just an average, obviously, as the organization gets bigger. But, DR is like a life insurance policy, right?
Right.
Nobody wants to buy life insurance because they never want to think about why they would need it. And a lot of companies say the same thing about DR. Why do I need DR? My servers are secure. I got my data in the cloud. And here is a myth that most customers have, which is Microsoft O365 is backed up out of the box. And it's not. If your O365 goes down and you don't have a DR policy in place, your data's gone.
Whoa. That's a big one. So let me ask it this way. Do you know of customers where that's happened? And what happens when that happens?
Nothing good. Nothing good happens. And nothing good happens even for that customer who's doing a tape backup, which, believe it or not, some customers still do, because the restore time on something like that is days, depending on how much data they have.
So you're potentially looking at an event that could literally cost way more than that $12,000, because that's just assuming you go down and you go back live, right? Within a couple of hours or a day, whatever.
Right.
But if you're down for days and you got to recover that data, the cost could be way beyond that $12,000.
It could be staggering.
Woo! That is.
And I don't know if most people understand that fact. Even sometimes the IT people don't understand that fact.
Of course they don't. That's why I have you here, because when it comes to this, I like to know, are we in a better place than we were pre-COVID? And it still sounds like there's still a lot of the same stuff happening before. Some customers are on board, but still a vast majority of IT departments still have room to grow and improve when it comes to this area.
100%. And that's where having a trusted advisor that you can bring what's going on with your business and talk through, because one of the things that we like to tout at Data Canopy is how we explore what the customer has, right? Because we need to understand their business, their business goals, their business functions, in order to be able to advise them. What I see a lot in the competitive marketplace is you get a box, right? And you say, okay, Mr. Customer, here's the box. You have to fit in it. That is not our methodology. Our methodology is, let us understand your business, let us understand what you're trying to accomplish, let us understand your long-term goals, and let us build you a solution that makes sense for you. It's that customizable solution that really differentiates us from a lot of people in this space.
I love it. White glove service. That's what it sounds like to me.
It is
Woo!
platinum glove service.
I love
not
that.
just-
Yeah, no, you know,
You don't throw that. You don't throw
no,
that around.
absolutely not. And you know, I
easily.
read somewhere, I don't know if you've seen this, but customer service as a whole, like for all businesses, all industries, has been just sinking and tanking. And it's for a whole bunch of reasons, but customer service hasn't gotten better. And I think a lot of companies do themselves a disservice because there's a lot of things we can't control, right, Charinna? We can't control, but the one area that each company can control is their interactions with their clients or their customer base. And if you can't make that right or get that going in the right direction, you just fall down. I mean, you're leaving money on the table that could potentially be coming back to you by word of mouth and recommendations and reviews and all that kind of stuff. We get into the marketing now.
So, you know, it's interesting. When I actually was a seller and you know, was actually a producer, I used to tell my customers, and I now preach this to my own team, if a customer had a ticket in with support and that ticket went for more than 24 hours without being resolved, that was to be brought to my attention, and I would escalate it. And people used to ask me, like, how can you make an offer like that? And I said, because I get very few phone calls and text messages of that nature. Because our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed. That's the way you run a tight ship. And that's not to say that nobody ever makes a mistake, because people make mistakes. Sure. But 20 years of doing this, I don't believe in excuses, and I don't believe in not giving the customer the experience that they've paid for and that they expect, because otherwise I'm just like everybody else.
Well, I get lumped into that group with people that, or companies and organizations that are just providing average to mediocre service. You know, and I don't know if you see this in the industry, but it happens a lot to incumbents or legacy companies that have been around a long time. They can live off a name, while smaller, younger companies are just eating slowly at their customer base, just slowly. And then someday they realize, wow, what happened to all our customers? Or there's a panic, or there's a change in management. And it just happens that they've let that erode over time because they've been riding that legacy name for years without being challenged.
Right.
Yeah, I always say I would love to spend $15 million on a Super Bowl ad. For Data Canopy, because that's what a Super Bowl ad costs.
And what would you do? Let me ask you that. How would you? What would you do? You want to run a Super Bowl ad? You like to talk about what would that sound like? What would that look like?
I would love to run a Super Bowl ad. Oh my gosh, I wouldn't even venture to tell you, but it would definitely be bedazzled, Rolando. It would be the most bedazzled ad you've ever seen in your life. Even if I had that kind of money from a marketing perspective, we as an organization always believed in reinvesting in our infrastructure and our people before we reinvest in our marketing. Like, we know a lot of technology companies are nothing but marketing machines, right? That's never the way I want to be viewed in the marketplace. I always want to be viewed as the company that's reinvesting into infrastructure and into my own people before I reinvest into a $15 million.
May have a hit.
So where do you draw the line? You know, where do you know, it's like brand awareness or internal, employees and product. Where do you make that decision on where to spend your money on marketing or, internal development?
That's a really good question. And a very difficult one to answer, because sometimes we have to leverage the resources that we have. Like, LinkedIn is a great example, because you can put your brand on repeat there, and there's very few dollars associated with being able to do that. And then I can go back and I can say, well, I can spend $250,000 on advertising with my partners. So where is that fine line? And it's all about one particular question, right? Where is the ROI? Where is my return on investment? So as business owners, we all think about, okay, if I put this number into marketing and trying to establish our place in the market, I need to see a 5x return on my money. If I'm not seeing a 5x return on those dollars because I have to factor in my time, then I'm not marketing effectively.
Charinna, let me ask you something that I'm always curious about, because you said, you want that ROI. What are you hearing with other clients, in this arena where social media is really becoming a bigger player than, when we started 20 years ago or even 10 years ago? It's becoming more of a player in getting information, informing clients, potential clients, exposure. What role is social media playing right now with the folks that you're interacting? What are you hearing about that?
So it's interesting. Specifically in technology, I would say that social media is very important for brand recognition. So that when your partners and your customers are seeing your name on repeat, that is where the social media aspect of it comes into play. I don't know that we actually get a customer from social media, but what we get is we've seen you on
Well, that's got to help to either the brand or your name, or both together, being linked together, right?
For sure. For sure. So you get less of, oh, we've never heard of you, right? We've never heard of Global Tech. We've never heard of Data Canopy. Right. That starts to go away. They have heard of you. They've seen you on social media. They have associated your brand with your name. So that's where social media really plays that role for us.
I heard something just recently that in today's social media age, the way to measure ROI is slightly different. In that, if you have a podcast, you're on social media, it's very hard to bring a number direct to a post or to continued efforts on social media. But what he was saying was that he's polled a lot of the customers that have been becoming customers, and he said that a lot of them will start their journey on social media. They'll start their journey on a podcast. They'll start their journey on something that mentioned them, and they eventually travel to their website and then go in and say, hey, I want to get your services or your product or whatever. And the measuring tools today, whether they're analytics or attribution tools, are not linking these two different things. Like going to your website direct, it says, oh, Rolando or Global Tech Worldwide went on to Data Canopy's website, but it's not capturing that where I started, which could have been on a podcast, could have seen one of your posts before. And that led to, picking up the phone and calling yourself or Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we don't have that kind of AI intelligence yet to say where is the origination point, other than to ask the customer, right, or the partner. Where did you hear about us? Where did you see us? And so we're still left asking that question. But I think, with social media, the probability that somebody saw us on social media before they engage us is extremely high. I cannot tell you how often people say to me, because obviously I have my own hashtag and it's the Charinna factor.
If I were to put it, let me give it some Latin flavor, I would call this locura maximo. This means the most amount of craziness. It's not really translate well in English. Yeah, but it's kind of like that. You're kind of locura maxima.
Yeah, I mean, we have to figure out how to continue to perpetuate things, keep it interesting. We don't want to seem stale and redundant.
I would never call you stale or redundant. You may have clones, but you're not redundant.
Oh, goodness.
Dave, you want to jump in?
Goodness.
It's satisfying when customers do find us after some content that we've created. I mean, Rolando, you and I, we see that every day. People are sending us links to our videos. They're like, we saw this video. We like you guys. Can we get some more personalized white glove? People are now coming to us wanting us.
Just this morning, I sent you that email, right, from that guy, a lawyer. Here, listen to this, Charinna. A lawyer, he bought phones from somewhere. Didn't tell us where. But he saw a video of us talking about how to fix this problem with phones and headsets. He just reached out, not even a customer. He just saw the video and he says, I saw you online on YouTube and, can you work with me on this? that's like a first. I mean, I would say we're social media babes. We're just at the very beginning, so we're still learning. But
Yeah.
the exposure, like you said, people see it, they recognize it, and this guy then sent an email after the fact because he's like, okay, these guys know what they're talking about, and I'm sure it's the same with you guys over at Data Canopy.
No, for sure. And for us, it's all about hearing the partner or the customer say, "We've heard of you. We've heard of you." So that's already perpetuating. That's already an advanced start for us because our competitors are so large in this space. So and everybody's heard their name. So when somebody says we've heard the name Data Canopy, that means I'm already ahead of the game.
Right.
Take
As
me
far as I'm
through,
concerned.
that experience with partners that you work with. I know Data Canopy does a lot, but what is that experience like for a partner that's never worked with Data Canopy and says, I've seen you, I hear you, Charinna, I've seen you post, but what's that like before I dip my toe in that water?
So we thought a lot about that question here for our partners. And for us, it's about enabling them. And it's about taking them by the hand because it is complex. It's not simple. And saying, okay, let's look at what your customers' needs are. Do they have data center needs? Do they have cloud needs? Do they have disaster recovery needs? Do they have Microsoft Office 365 needs? Let's go customer by customer, figure out what their needs are, and then let's develop a strategy together, a go-to-market strategy that will help you engage that customer and ascertain what their needs are and take the fear factor out of that engagement. Because what I find is a lot of my partners are not scared to talk about voice. They're not scared to talk about headsets. They're not scared to talk about fiber, but they're
Really?
scared to talk about the cloud. And part of it is because there's still so many misconceptions. I mean, 50% of the population still thinks it's a rain cloud. So we have to get past that part of it, right? So we have to get past the fact that it's a rain cloud. And what is a cloud and what is the origin and where does it start from, which is of course in a data center. So what we are all about at Data Canopy, making sure that we're enabling our customers and our partners. We're enabling both.
I love it. And you guys have been, they Data Canopy picked you from somewhere else because that's not where I met you. But I know that
Correct.
they are really loving all the efforts and hustle that you're putting into the game and getting their channel going and working hard. I don't know. There are very few women. If I toot your horn here for a second, there are very few women. I know women are out there. They work hard. You got to be darn close near the top of the hardest working woman that I know out there in the business today. So if you're looking for a partner to work with that's in the cloud space, Charinna will be in your corner. Data Canopy and the team will be in your corner. I know you guys. I've met several folks on their team. They're really great people. Can't say enough about them, and I love watching what you guys are doing over there, and hearing your success. I feel happy for you when you're like, hey, we won this customer, blah, 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 and
The hustle is real. That is for sure, right? The hustle is real.
Charinna, I want to ask you one other thing because I know time is of the essence for you. You're talking about cloud. You're talking about data centers. Why would an IT director or an IT person that's looking at this move, when they're making that judgment between cloud versus how can I keep my hardware and maybe just put it in a data center, where does the dollar and cents, where does that add up where that really makes sense for them to make that roll right over into the cloud?
So it's twofold. It's about the refresh cycle of the hardware, where they are in it. So I'll give you a perfect example. Years ago, we had a pretty large financial services firm in Washington, D.C., who had a issue with
Oof.
water in the ceiling. I think almost every customer at one point or another has had a leak of some sort. And their initial thought process was, we'll pull those servers out and we'll go put them in the data center. That is what makes sense for us because this hardware isn't that old, right? So where you stand in the refresh cycle of your hardware generally is one of the big factors. The second factor is that some people just want to still have hardware, but that they recognize that keeping it on the prem is not the most secure place to keep it. They need the power redundancies that a data center can offer, the security that a data center can offer. So those two factors. When we get past those two things and we start talking about cloud, okay, we've aged out our hardware, we know we want to move, then we start saying, okay, what applications, right? Maybe QuickBooks, for example, is an application that needs to reside on a server. So we want to keep that in a data center. But some other applications can reside in the cloud. So there's always that fine balance. And that's where, again, the transformative discovery comes into play, is understanding every application that a customer has and understanding where it belongs in the cycle, whether it belongs on hardware.
So there's no one
cloud.
size fits all in this whole thing. This is just a customer tailoring the solution to their needs. That's what it sounds like to me. Awesome.
Correct.
Dave.
100%.
You're not forcing your client in the
All
box.
right.
Nope, we are not. There is no box here.
Hey, Charinna,
Yep.
a final question, Rolando, if I can. So we had prepared a final question for you, and I think it's important to mention, and it's about disaster recovery.
Sure.
As in respect to business insurance, you have to have property and liability insurance. You should be offering health insurance. I'm a strong proponent for life insurance. So if DR is the insurance of this world, what message is being ignored that really needs, some attention? Why would DR be ignored like that?
Because people don't ever think they're going to have an outage or a disaster. That's why it gets ignored. It's the same thing with life insurance. Nobody ever thinks they're going to die. It's
True.
And I hate to use that analogy, but
Yes.
that's why some people don't buy it, though, right? Nobody thinks that that's going to happen to them. And it's the same thing with DR. Nobody ever thinks they're going to have an outage. Nobody ever thinks they're going to be hacked. So as a result, they say that's a cost we can cut.
In today's political climate, is the fear of cyber attack not a real thing for your clients?
Oh, no, it's very real. But again, it's one of those things where people say, I'm such a small company, that's never going to happen. Who's going to hack me?
Wow.
Right.
That's a dangerous thinking, because things evolve. Hackers evolve. I've read a LinkedIn post by Stephanie Drysdale. So shout out to Stephanie if you're listening. She's in the cybersecurity space, and she posted a thing on LinkedIn where the folks that were behind one of the more recent crypto attacks went so far as to do two things. One, they set up a fake website of a company, so it would look like a real website. The second thing is that they made a post on different employment websites looking for crypto developers. Well, guess what? They got exactly what they wanted. They got somebody to apply. They did a phony interview with them. They sent them an email with a PDF that was the virus. The potential candidate opened it up and gave the keys of the kingdom to that small business, that crypto company. That's how good the hackers are getting. They're seeing a long game, not just like, I'm going to send you this spammy looking email. They're going so far as to create a phony website that's real, like a real legitimate company, and then interviewing and posting that on employment websites so they can get those people inside to open up that email.
That's a level of sophistication that's a whole
It is, but that's
a whole new
exactly
realm.
what I'm saying. We're not at the same place we were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or 20 years ago, where, it was, these phishing attacks, as they're called, and just going. This is a much more sophisticated world. The measures that companies are putting in from an IT and cybersecurity perspective are really working. So these guys are getting creative. How can we get in without trying to brute force into the system, into the database? That still happens. But the lockdowns on that have become much more clever, and companies are getting wiser. So there's still a backdoor. I'm going to get the guy who's over there wanting a new job to click on my file. And now I got him. It's crazy.
Wow. It's absolutely insane.
Well, Charinna, I want to thank you for coming on today. I want you to tell us, how can people get a hold of you or Data Canopy if they want more information and want you to work with them?
Yes, so LinkedIn is the way to find me. Charinna Kushnir, you can drop me a note, or you can send me an email at ckushnir, Kushnir, at datacanopy.com.
Right. And for those people that are watching us, we've got Charinna's wonderful mug on the screen right now on LinkedIn. She's out of the Baltimore City area, just up the river from where I live, down on the Virginia side of the river. We've been talking with Charinna Kushnir, who's a wonderful, lovely guest, the hardest working woman in telecom that I know of. And it's been a pleasure having you, Charinna. I love talking to you and having you. Your second tour and maybe third or fourth is going to be due as well. All right, Charinna, thank you. Thanks for being a great sport.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Anytime,
right.
guys, anytime. It's always my pleasure.
Thanks for listening to What the Tech. Be sure to check out our other episodes featuring awesome tech and amazing guests. Find them on circuitloops.com or wherever you consume your favorite podcasts.